Okay, so a little change of plan today. We were going to be doing another chat with Magilla today, but he was missing in action, and we didn't hear from him until, as he keeps pointing out to us right now in chat, 26 minutes after we were supposed to be live. So we've gone a little different way here today. We're going to talk about two things today. We're going to start out talking about the coronavirus, obviously, as it's becoming more and more of a pertinent worldwide issue. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that at the beginning here. And then we're going to move into some Making a Murderer content, where we're going to talk a little bit about Pam of God and some of the things that went on with the finding of the raft. So that's where we're headed today. But like I said, first, as you can see from what's on the screen at the moment, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus here today. And even though Magilla isn't here with us today, we are going to be using one of his tweets to show you guys some charts about the virus. So
hopefully he'll find his way here.
Well, one can hope.
Yeah,
that gorilla is seriously playing hooky right now, and
I think he's giving us the runaround.
Yeah, he's playing hooky.
Maybe his cage is locked.
Yeah. Oh, unless Mr. Peebles, unless he got in trouble with Mr. Peebles, I guess maybe I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the pet store is closed down because of the coronavirus.
Oh, there you go. Maybe he's not allowed out of his cage because of corona. But see, I already heard that dogs were cleared from the coronavirus. That the WHO cleared them and said that all of them could be released from quarantine. So I think maybe be interesting to know if gorillas are susceptible to it.
Gorillas are susceptible. He wrote that on Twitter, actually. Yeah.
Oh, really? He did? Yeah. I trust him to know. So, all right.
Oh, yeah.
He was here. Yes, you're right, T1. He was here. He's
in the chat
to us in chat, but then when we try to respond to him, we get silence. So I suspect that he got caught up doing something today and doesn't have time, and he actually barely has time to let us know that he can't make it. So I'm thinking he's got something going on, that he's busy. So anyways, we'll move forward. We'll reschedule this live for next Sunday, and I will change the name of this one to the appropriate title to suit the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. So, all right. So obviously coronavirus is something that's sweeping the world. It's becoming a worldwide concern. It's getting pretty much everywhere at this point. The numbers of people infected are just on the rise, generally all around. And it all started basically in Wuhan, China, which from what I understand is in southeast China. And I know that it was creating some havoc there when the outbreak was happening, because I had a friend in Kuala Lumpur who, when it got to Kuala Lumpur, it was creating a lot of just devastation. It was when once everybody was getting sick from it, it was just causing things to just kind of break down, and it was pretty bad. It's good that the countries around the world are starting to take notice of how serious it is, and are starting to take measures that will help at least slow down its spread, to give the medical community enough time to deal with it. And by that I mean, instead of having 1 million people drop, or let's say instead of having 1,000 people drop on a hospital in one day, hopefully by slowing down the spread, that hospital maybe gets 300 or 400 cases a day, where they can more aptly handle it and deal with it, and hopefully get the onset of this thing spread out over months and things like that, so that we can get a handle on it. Would you agree with that, Roel?
Yeah, actually, 300 or 400 cases a day will be too much for any hospital. I think you need to think more about something like 30 or 40 or 50 cases at the same time for the real serious cases. I mean them. Because there are not that much beds for intensive care, etc. And the problem with most of the countries is what you see is they all tend to think in the beginning, well, it won't happen to us. And then they think it won't happen so fast, and then it will not grow so fast. And they all underestimate it in the beginning.
Right.
And that happened in our country also. And they waited much too long with closing down things. And in Italy and Spain, they have made the same mistakes, but maybe even worse. And what they are facing now is thousands and thousands of new cases each day and hundreds of deaths each day. So it's pretty serious. And you can see what will happen if you, as a country, wait too long before starting doing things to slow the spread of this virus down. And in the beginning, they'll all talk about how you need to wash your hands, etc. And it's all fine. It's important to wash your hands, but that's not enough. You need to combine that with social distancing. And if you don't do social distancing, it won't help enough. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I made a video just yesterday, folks, where I noticed all the independence marches in Scotland were being canceled due to coronavirus. And so I actually put up the suggestion to them that they could do something similar to like what we did here last year and are getting ready to do again. With they could do a live streaming event for independence since they had to cancel these marches. And the brilliant thing about online gathering is you can't spread corona through a virtual chat room. So it's actually, I think, a pretty brilliant idea, and I think we may see a lot of live streaming as corona takes its course here. People getting together online and doing live streaming events to talk about the things that they care about, because they'll no longer be able to collect in person, at a physical location to do it while this is taking its course. So I think we're going to see a lot of brilliant things like that come from this, a lot of coming together, people working together. As sad as this thing's out, the outbreak of this is going to be, and as sad it is that people are going to die, I think it is going to be focusing, I think, for the human race, and hopefully get us all remembering how important it is for us to work together in that sort of stuff. So I think that could be a positive aspect coming from an unfortunate situation.
That's true, and it might even, nations having conflicts with each other, but it all tends to be less important when you're all together facing the same enemy, the same virus, the same infection, same pandemic. And then you actually need to work together, whether you like the other country or not, doesn't matter. It hits us all. It hits one nation after the other. So the only thing between the USA and the UK is that the USA is not there where the UK is at the moment, when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to how much has spread. But it's only a matter of maybe 1 week, 4 or 5 days, and it will have the same percentage of cases as in the UK. And if you're comparing the UK with the Netherlands, the UK is not there yet where the Netherlands is now, but that's also a matter of 5 or 6 days, and the UK will be at the same number of same percentage of cases from the total population where the Dutch are now. And if we in the Netherlands don't do the right things, then in a few weeks we will be where Spain and Italy are right now, and it's pretty scary. So
to give you guys an idea of that, Spain is currently at 6,391 cases.
I think that's an old number. I think they were at 8,000 or 9,000 today.
Okay.
And they got 2,000 extra cases only in 1 day.
Right.
And Italy got 3,000 or 4,000 cases
Well,
in
even on the
one
13th.
day extra.
And in China, even on the 13th, China had 80,000, almost 81,000 cases on the 13th. So
Yeah, but that's actually a number that has already been a long time, 80,000. So that's pretty stable. So there are not many new cases in China at the moment. So they have got it under control, but only by taking very, very drastic measures and sealing off a complete region. And so it's very important to to distance people from each other to prevent the spread of this virus.
I see here they've got 65,660 recoveries as of the 13th, when this article was done. So that's interesting.
So they still have more than 10,000 people not recovered yet, but hopefully most of them will recover. And
Italy,
death
1,400 deaths in Italy as of the 13th.
Yeah.
That's a scary number.
Yeah, and Spain is had the 195 is also an old number. I think at the moment it's quite a bit more. Let me see.
All these numbers are from the 13th, so they are.
Yeah, and we're two ways ahead now, and Spain has 300 deaths, and Italy has 1,800 deaths. And Spain is actually at 8,000 cases now, and Italy is at nearly 25,000 cases. So you can see how fast this grows, and the problem is it's exponential growth. And exponential growth is defined by that in a number of days it will double. And in the Netherlands, it was like in 3 or 3.5 days. The number of cases doubled. We're actually now a bit less, but that can also be caused by less testing because less people are being tested. So you have a lower number of confirmed cases, but it doesn't mean that less people get corona.
Right.
But we have a smaller figure now, so maybe in 4 days it will double instead of in 3 or 3.5 days. But still, if you double 2, 4, 8, 16, you can see how that grows very fast. It's beyond the normal imagination of how we think things grow. We think about growing, how grass grows, or how trees grow, or whatever, and that's linear growth. And we're talking about exponential growth. Each case infects two people, and each person infects 2 people, so that makes 4, and that makes 8 and 16. And you cannot prevent that. You can only enlarge the time frame that it needs to double, actually. So it will double, and you can only influence how long will it take before it doubles.
Right.
And if we enlarge that time span enough, then it will help in 2 ways. Then we can make our hospitals have the cases one after another instead of all consecutively, and that will hopefully help us to not being required at some point in time to say, well, we can't take you as a case because our beds are full, we cannot cure you. And in fact, people are going to die then because they don't get proper treatment in hospitals. So if we slow it down enough, then the cases will come one after another instead of all at the same time. And then you have enough medical personnel, enough beds, and enough supplies, mouth caps, etc. And the other thing is that if we slow it down enough, then in the end we can have either a cure or a vaccine, but that will take a long time. They're talking about an antiviral antiviral medicine, but that will take months. And if you're talking about a vaccine, that can take years. So you need to slow down, to be able to get those things in time before half of the population will be infected.
Right.
Where did this virus start in China? Apparently, it's believed that it was spread from bats. Is that right?
Well, the thing I just read was something about a fish market in Wahoo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so like 94% associated with bats or something.
Yeah, the origin, I heard it was in bats, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not the first
but
time.
It jumped from animals to humans. Yeah. But anyone who needs good advice, start early with social distancing. That's very important to slow the spread of this virus down. And well, don't underestimate it. I saw a instruction video of the CDC, and I thought, well, that's pretty naive. All those advices. Well, once the epidemic is spreading, you need to take much more drastic measures.
Right.
Yeah, I believe here in the UK, it's reckoned that 8% of the UK will get it eventually. And they're on about testing every member of the population for it, in order to try and find out who are the ones that need to put themselves in self-isolation. I must admit that I've heard of quite a few people here in the borders that have come back from the Far East that have isolated themselves for a couple of weeks, even though they weren't feeling ill, just to make sure of that, So there are some sensible people out there. And any thoughts on these people who buy up, like that one guy bought up 17,000 hand gel stuff, to try and sell on Amazon and was shut down by them. Well, thank God for that,
Yeah.
You can't believe
it's a criminal act to buy all those hand sanitizers and for $1 and then selling them for $20.
Yeah.
It's a criminal act.
I'll tell you what, folks, for a guy that you'll never hear him talk. He sure has a lot to say that's on point. I know Roel was talking about the potential effect on the prisons. Do you want to field that?
Yeah, once it enters a prison, I think it will be very hard to contain it to just part of the prison population. So eventually it will enter the prisons. And well, when I say eventually, that could be pretty soon. And then it's going to be a problem because it's very difficult to contain it in a prison if you can't get the active cases in the prison out of the prison, and that will be a problem because they need to be guarded, etc. So, and there are people in prison that are in high risk groups. So actually, I already sent a mail to Governor of California to ask for a commutation for Yatsen Singh, who is in Vacaville facility. He is 75 and he has bad health, and he's wrongly convicted also, just like Tim Avery and Brad Mendesi. Yes. And so I asked him this weekend to set him free and to be able to avoid this virus infection spread. But well, it will be for many other prisoners also, and it will maybe take a while before it gets into the prison. But some guard or some other worker at the prison will eventually bring corona into that prison.
Yeah.
And then it will spread like wildfire because people are they're close to each other in prison. It's very hard to practice social distancing in the prison.
Right.
Other than isolation or whatever, everyone isolated in an isolation room. So I'm pretty worried about prison.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the prison where Stephen and Brendan are, but Brendan will probably not be a high risk group for this virus, but Stephen might. He's a bit older.
Yeah. Stephen being a little older, I guess, but I imagine Stephen's immune system is probably still pretty fighting fit.
Yeah, he's not doesn't have diabetes or whatever.
Right.
That could also be another risk factor. People having a condition or something, they have a higher risk of getting serious problems with contracting corona.
Yeah.
So let's hope the best for them.
Yeah, and do our best to try to take precautions.
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
And what would be wise is if they could make a selection in the prisons already and say, well, these people are at high risk in prison, so maybe either commute their sentence or give them a pardon to let them out of the prison already before they actually being exposed to that coronavirus. It will enter the prisons.
Hey, Paul and Roel, you want to field that question?
I am spreading it quicker than coronavirus at the moment. trying to get anybody to round up our gorilla, but without luck so far.
Where's the link to the broadcast?
That's what he's saying.
We have put it
he's saying he's having trouble finding it.
Yeah, we have put it everywhere, Magilla.
Oh man!
Just click on the StreamYard link, and it.
StreamYard link. It's in every room we could find.
Yeah. Surprised I don't have 5 other people queuing up now.
Yeah. But for some reason, he's not seeing our chats.
So he's saying Avery has high blood pressure, and that could be a risk for him, potentially.
Yeah. That could be a risk.
Generally, want to be more worried about your immune system, though. It's if you have a healthy immune system, from what I understand, that you're in better shape.
Yeah, but actually, each condition might pose a problem.
Well, I'm not saying it isn't a factor at all. It certainly would.
No. Yeah.
Help, he says. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. But we have put the link on there.
And the link's right there above him, and he's just on the link.
Another try.
Help.
Another try.
So there it is again.
Please send it again. Yeah, I've sent
there
it
again.
again.
It's. I don't know. Anyways, hopefully he'll pop in here eventually. So
yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here. There he is. All right. What does the gorilla have to say about COVID-19?
Yeah.
There again.
Hey.
He's got his YouTube window open. You got to hit mute on that.
Are we okay now?
Yeah.
Hi, Magilla.
How's it going, buddy?
My messenger window froze. I had to reload it to see anything. It was letting me type into it, but
oh, damn it! Damn this technology at times.
It can. Well, I know somebody that busts YouTube.
Only because of copyright. Anyway.
No, the whole of YouTube crashed, didn't it? As a result of me.
All right,
Anyway, nice to see you, Magilla.
sorry about that, guys. I was looking for you about a half hour ago, and
Yeah,
we were waiting for you.
if you weren't
we did start in time.
if you weren't getting the messages, then
all right,
Yeah, that's the problem.
the coronavirus.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about coronavirus. We saw a few interesting graphs of you today on Twitter about corona.
Yes. So this shows how much more dangerous it is than the common flu,
Right.
especially for people above the age of 50, and extremely dangerous for people in their 70s and 80s. So
Yeah.
Right. And it actually doesn't seem like it seems to be too much of a worry with infants either.
well, the problem is that everybody carries it and spreads it, and then the very vulnerable in the society. So somebody with a respiratory illness or somebody older is very high fatality rate. I mean, if this had 100% exposure to the country and just 5% of the people in their 70s died, that'd be 1 in 20. You know, that's
millions.
Yeah. So it's serious business, and
and in the Netherlands it will be hundreds of thousands of people that will die,
and
in the UK maybe also.
I think they're talking about 300,000. 300,000 was what.
300,000 or 4 maybe. Yeah.
So
we need to take it very seriously.
Yeah, but the one question I have is there a unique way that coronavirus makes you sick or whatever that would explain this ridiculous behavior with people buying up toilet paper? Like, does it give you seriously bad diarrhea or something? I just don't understand this thing with the toilet paper.
It's just the isolation bit, isn't it?
The two top symptoms that distinguish it are a dry cough and a fever. So I'm not sure what you do with the toilet paper.
Right. Okay.
But it is. We have had some interesting recipes on toilet paper.
It is.
If you have so much, what do you do with it? It's just eat it.
Well, I mean, you might want the toilet paper so you don't have to go back to the grocery store. And be exposed to other people. But the main reason it's passed is through sputum mist. So basically, it's in the lining of your lungs and your sinuses and your throat. And when you release sputum, that normally has to go into the other person's mouth or nose or eyes. So they say that the maximum distance the sputum mist usually goes is about 2.5 feet, and it's worse if you're sneezing or coughing badly.
Right.
And then if we stand 6 feet apart, we're outside of each other's microscopic sputum mist. So it's important to remember that things occur on a microscopic level that's invisible to the eye. That's important for. It's definitely important for thinking about the splatter of your urine, and also contamination of your hands while using the toilet. This is why we strongly encourage children to wash their hands. It's not good enough to be from Harvard and be taught not to pee on your hands. The microscopic spatter from urine is. It's always there, even if you're from Harvard. That's what we say when we're engineers or scientists. So here,
actually, the director of the health service in the Netherlands said, "Well, it won't be as bad in the Netherlands as it was in Italy because we are much cleaner than the people in Italy. I don't know where he got it from, but he really said something like, because we know how to wash our hands and we'll be fine, and we won't be spreading the virus. And he's the director of our National Health Service.
I think he's making. He might not realize it, but he's making a racial slur against the Italians, and
yeah, of course,
and he might think that's funny, but
Yeah.
I don't.
And
comes off sounding like those dirty Italians.
And because he was downplaying that, maybe because he was downplaying that, or maybe some other things, and they didn't close the pubs down. And this weekend there were parties, and they even organized some lockdown parties. What is a lockdown party? That's before you're going to be locked down and not being able to party anymore. Then you are organizing a big party with many people standing close to each other and all spreading that virus if it's there. So it's crazy stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, maybe they stay 6 feet apart from each other and they wear filter masks while they're drinking and smoking.
I didn't see those photos. In those photos, it was many people standing.
That type of party might be pretty safe. It's not like you have to.
Yeah.
But if you look at the countries that are really being strict, you see they're wearing filter masks and spacing themselves out 6 feet, it's to keep outside of each other's sputum mist. Okay, so sputum is the word for the day.
Yeah.
I did have one other coronavirus slide. That wasn't mine. This one. No, not this one. Maybe you were on it already.
I think in another post.
So here's the first one.
Yeah, the second one.
Third one.
These are all the same.
And then picture.
So this
I think you had another post in the
maybe you have another one.
or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That doesn't look like mine.
That was somebody else.
Maybe I had another chart, but maybe posted.
This
one twice.
Yeah, that one I think. Yeah, the fatality rates.
Yeah, what's the second one here? This one's real similar to what we saw. I think the charts, to me, the charts speak a lot of information. But it is, even, so eventually everybody has to develop immunity to this virus. Apparently, a healthy immune system develops resistance within 15 days and is able
antibodies,
to
right,
isolate it and tear it apart. And then those antibodies will be present in their system for a while. So eventually that has to work through the system, but it doesn't have to happen all in the first wave. And hopefully we're taking the right precautions all around the world.
All right, that looks like it.
Yeah, if we slow it down enough, we buy ourselves time.
Yeah.
We buy ourselves time to get a treatment, and we buy ourselves time to get a vaccine. We buy ourselves time to treat the people in the hospital spread out.
Yeah,
so that we don't have too many cases at the same time.
Right, because the respiratory infection requires pretty specialized care, and hospitals don't have a tremendous capacity for that. So
no.
So hopefully we're all right, and we're all sitting at least 6 feet away from everybody, and I guess we can go to the case.
Yeah. I'm just hanging out with 100 of my closest friends. So.
Yeah, anyway. Just hanging out, at safe at a safe distance.
Yeah, virtually.
Yeah, right. You don't. Yeah. You want to give each other a big personal bubble right now, and
it's about 6,000 miles for me to Crunch Island, so I'm.
No, it's not. It may be 6,000 miles from you to California, but Crunch Island is a lot closer to home than you think, buddy.
There we
And
go.
I'm
Even
much closer. For me, it's only a few hundred miles, I think,
yeah.
Paul.
Yep.
All right.
Fortunately, this virus hasn't crossed into my species yet. So
Yes.
I heard gorillas were susceptible.
oh
You wrote that on
I
Twitter.
thought you said that.
Yeah.
well. It's always good to take precautions when dealing with humans.
Yeah. The skinny, hairless ones, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so looks like these numbers have grown a little bit.
Yeah, this is from today. So there's 56 confirmed cases in Los Angeles now. There's, it seems like it's becoming a serious problem in New York over here.
Yeah.
And then up here, the biggest bubble on the map. The other map I saw was up here in Washington. It's hitting Washington pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually have a large population of people who came over from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of people that actually visited China. So they were, and then California has.
Keep in mind, the differences between those numbers are just a matter of days or a week. If you let it grow the same rate it does grow now, then it's a matter of weeks, and in the other states you'll have the same number of cases as you have now in the state of Washington.
I do think North Dakota is probably going to have a pretty low number of cases because there's just not a lot of people there.
Yeah, that's also a possible solution. So let all people move out of the state, and you won't have that many cases.
Yeah.
Okay, they managed.
Sorry.
It looks like Idaho's just clean there. Right?
Yeah. And only 27 in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're close to Chicago's. I guess the spot near us that seems to be the worst.
It's interesting to get that email from Governor Evers about the coronavirus.
Yeah,
that was quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, they've closed most of the schools. They shut down our sports, and so now all we go back to is beer and bratwurst.
Well, okay, could be worse.
Yeah, but it's still strange. You get an email about the coronavirus, whereas you were emailing the governor about the commutation or pardon for Brendan Dassey. That's what I wrote him about, and then I get an email back about the coronavirus. Still strange.
Well, we must be on his mailing list now, you know.
Yeah,
so,
of course. Yeah. So he thinks we're in Wisconsin for some reason.
I've been in Wisconsin, so does that count?
Well, I think if you're foolish enough to contact him, and we have been, then he's probably going to send you political materials.
It's probably quicker for him to just send the same thing to everybody rather than filter out the ones that are and aren't in.
And I haven't had an answer on my questions about Brendan Dassey. Has someone else got an answer?
I think the answer was the assistant attorney general resigning. It's like, we're going to continue with the policy we had, and if you disagree, you can leave the case.
That's sort of an answer, but not quite what I expected from a personal email.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it said sincerely yours at the end.
Or you always get the have a nice day at the end, don't you?
And a smiley face.
We'll keep the heat on Governor Evers,
Oh yeah, we will.
We'll keep that heat on him, and we'll keep the heat on the players in this case, and we'll just, let them feel like there's nowhere to turn.
Yep.
And like I said, hopefully we get the flip or slip. Somebody either chooses to flip and break it wide open, or somebody slips and says something they shouldn't have said. So either way,
we had that from Kretz, of course, but since he also closed down all his activities, even his social media activities, we won't have any chance of getting more slip-ups from Kretz. That's a pity. But maybe Michael Griesbach is willing to do some slips.
He's been silent for a while.
Yeah, also 2 weeks or so, something like that.
I think it's 17 days today. So.
17 days.
Who's counting? I'm counting.
Not that you're counting. No, not that you're counting.
He tested positive for corona, maybe.
Well, you know, when we go to Mexican restaurants, I prefer Modelo Dark. But,
I heard the Mexicans are asking for a wall between the USA and Mexico to prevent spreading the disease to Mexico.
And they want the Americans to pay for it? Anyways.
Yeah. Something like that.
No, but anyways, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to joke about corona. It's a serious matter.
Right.
Sorry.
There's a question from Hazel. Will Mamathon possibly have to be cancelled? No way.
No, because a virtual chat room is exactly what's needed for situations like this. And as I said at the beginning of this video, for those that may have missed it, I did a video yesterday on my other channel talking about Scottish independence. Because over in Scotland right now, they're canceling all the independence marches because of coronavirus. So I suggested to the independence movement there that they could use something similar to what we did with Mamathon and are going to be doing with Mamathon, because it allows massive amounts of people to get together and be together and you know, and that sort of thing. But it doesn't allow the coronavirus to spread because, well, you just can't do that through a virtual chat room or a virtual meeting place. So
we can extend the time. We can do 72 hours or more because we won't be able to go to work. So we can do
some of the planners just had a coronary right now. If they're watching this right now, they're probably having like palpitations at you just saying that. So but no, it would be interesting to even maybe do a longer one, but maybe we'll see. But like it's certainly an option for people right now in the coronavirus, while it's taking its toll, for them to get together to support the things that they care about. They could do it virtually in virtual rooms like this one, and you know, others. So I think that's an avenue people will start to explore here in the next couple months. What's up, Jerome? So, since Magilla was having technical difficulties today, we decided we were going to shift the conversation to this about Pam Sturm and the finding of the RAV. So, is that okay with you, Magilla?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll. Let me go through this Reddit post, which I wrote 3 days ago. You see my username is LionEagle64, and maybe a little explaining of that username. The Lion Eagle is... Sorry?
Oh, I'm kidding with you.
Ignore him.
Everybody does.
A Lion Eagle is actually what my last name is. It's a mythological animal, Griffioen, and that's a combination of a lion and an eagle. So that's why I'm Lion Eagle on Reddit, and that 64 has a secret meaning. Well, you can do some calculations on that number, and then you'll know my age. Okay.
I'm holder of the rune staff, and no, it's not dirty. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's shift a little bit
down.
Down, yes, please. Okay, so we have some questions here. Were Pam and Nicole Sturm the only ones searching the salvage yard in the morning of the 5th? And did the law enforcement officers actually know that they were searching and maybe that others were searching? Well, and then we of course have the question, why was that phone call so bizarre, and can we explain that? Was the RAV4 locked when it was found by Pam Sturm, Pam of God? and if so, who locked it and when. And there is also a question about the Lemieux sticker, which is on the back window of the RAV4.
The tailgate, right?
On that tailgate, and well, it's the question: did law enforcement know before the car was found that there was a sticker on it? And did Sturm know beforehand if that sticker was on Therese's car? And so when she saw the car with that sticker, did she need to ask? Did Therese's car have that sticker or not? Or was it information she already had beforehand? So that's the main questions of my post. And if you now go down, then first we focus on the search parties. Pam and Nicole were, of course, a search party willing to go into the salvage yard. And the story was always that they arrived late at the home of Therese and Hilbert, and Ryan Hillegas all the other searches were already gone, and they all had gone to different places, and
all the searchers were gone, right?
Yeah.
Pam came up last after everybody else was already gone.
Yeah,
right.
and she said, "Let's go to look in the Avery salvage yard," and that was a great idea. No one evidently thought about looking where she was last seen, or maybe next to last seen, or whatever.
Right.
And Pam had a brilliant idea to go looking at the Avery salvage yard, so she went there. But we see here a fragment of the homicide report of the MTSO, and Remaker has information from Wigert, and Wigert stated he and several of the volunteer search parties would be coming to the MTSO because several searches were willing to go to the Avery property. That sounds strange. Several of the volunteer search parties would be coming to the MTSO within the next hour.
And it would contradict the prosecution's official story.
Yeah, that the law enforcement didn't know that people were going to look at the Avery salvage yard, and that it was a surprise that some civilians found that Ralph and Ellie supposedly didn't know anything about it.
Right.
So that is already a strange thing.
Yeah, that's very odd.
Yeah, so we go down a bit. I won't do the complete post. If you're interested, just read the whole post. But now go down a
little more,
a bit more, a little more. Yeah.
We'll,
these are the names of people that were actually on the Avery salvage yard area, and they needed to get out of that area after the roadblock was set on Highway 147. After the RAV was found, directly the roadblock was created there, and everyone had to report when he went out. So these are the peoples that might have been the other search parties or whatever. I don't think it's very likely that they were search parties, and you also see some Spanish names there. Pam Sturm was talking about some Spanish people also there in being next to the RAV4 area, and so probably it's those three people who were in that group. But I don't think they were search parties. Maybe the Marts, or how do you call that? Marts, Daryl Marts and Karl Marts. Well, maybe they were a search party. That name does ring a bell for me. But further, I don't think they had anything to do with searching for Theresa's car, Theresa, or whatever. Okay, so now if you go down a little bit more, and then we'll see the next fragment of the MTSO report, and then it's very strange because we all know that one call. Pam Sturm calls dispatch, and dispatch has a conversation with her, and then after a while, Sheriff Jerry Pagel or Pagel or well, Pagel. Okay. Tomato, tomato, pagel, pagel.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's call the whole thing.
Yeah.
Bagel with a P.
Pagel. Okay. Pagel is joining in the call, and then after a while he gives the phone to Uyghur who tries to confirm the VIN. And we all know that's only one phone call from Pam Sturm. But actually, when you read the report of Remaker, then he's clearly describing 2 phone calls with a female search volunteer who has found the RAV4. In that first outline block, Wiegert had received information from a female subject who was currently on the Avery property, who may have located Theresa's RAV4 on the property. And he's not sure if it's Theresa's vehicle, but he did receive some information, but it's all very vague. It's not precise information, no plates, no VIN or whatever. It's very vague. And that's the first call. And then Remaker goes to the Avery property from the MTSO office. And then
amazingly,
he received...
it's amazing that because of his timing there's a point on his way to the salvage yard, I think, where he actually travels back in time 1 minute. I think it's because he got lost in his timekeeping, but still hilarious and funny.
That's a typo.
Anyway.
That's a typo.
Yeah, no worries. But still fun.
Close,
but he still got there pretty darn quick. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, and in that time, in that pretty short time, he receives another call from Wiegert. And now Wiegert has more information because Wiegert indicates he received another phone call from that same female volunteer, also known as Pam of God, with additional information. And then he suddenly knows the VIN number, and he knows the Lemieux sticker, and he already knows at that point in time that it was on Theresa's vehicle. So that's more information. So it sounds like the second call is the one we know, with dialogue first with the dispatch, and then with Pagel, and then with the Wiegert. And so the question is, what is that first phone call about? So you can do all kinds of speculations on what that first phone call was. Maybe Pam found the vehicle, opened it, maybe the key was in there and she got ordered to lock the car and keep the key hidden or whatever. You can do any kind of speculations. We don't know anything about it, but it's strange. Why are there 2 calls described in the report of Remaker? And what was in that first phone call? And
we do know that driver's door is open by the time it gets to the crime lab, by the way.
Yeah, that's much later, and then suddenly it is open, and I think Magilla is going to talk a little bit about that. I don't know if it's today or next week, but anyway, I think it's covered in the story, in storyline Twitter. But right. It's quite interesting to think about why there are 2 calls and why they are not referring in the second call to the first call, because they could have said, well, as I told you before in the previous call, but they don't do any reference. So maybe Pam was ordered by Pagel to call again and act as if it was the first call. And maybe there's also a reason that second call was to dispatch and first call might have been directly to Pagel because she got a direct line to the sheriff. That was what Ryan Helges testified about, that he gave Pam the number of Sheriff Pagel so she could call him directly, and allegedly she got the voicemail of Pagel and then called dispatch. But what if she didn't get voicemail? She did get Pagel, but she had done something wrong. She touched the car, or she opened it, or she whatever. She did something wrong, and she said something wrong in that first call, and Pagel said, "Well, let's do this again. Let's act as if you're freshly calling me for the first time. So that's up to speculation, but it's very weird.
Well, what we think happened was they were aware that the RAV4 was at that location from the prior night. When we have the strange phone calls between Ryan and the no call ID incoming calls, and that the entire Pam of God situation was staged to try to make it look like a civilian had discovered the car.
Right.
So when she calls into Pagel, as she was instructed, I think on the surface, all we need to know is that he thought it would be better if she called dispatch, general dispatch, and pretend like she didn't have his number, and pretend like she was just a civilian out there who discovered this and called, here we'd call it 911. But
later on, Ryan told that he gave the direct line, and that was a mistake, maybe a slip up. It wasn't meant to be by Pagel.
The defense might have found a couple things that indicated it was all a charade.
Yeah.
So
they could have asked questions about these two calls, but they didn't.
You're right. More could have happened. We know that also now the law enforcement is compromised with respect to certain people because those people know they didn't follow procedure and that this is a bad search. So, and Ryan's one of those people. So, and so is Mike Halbach. So later when we see them getting interviewed, they're all acting odd. I think this is what Mike Halbach's being odd about.
All right. Can I address something real quick, guys? Channel Q, are you on my Discord? If you are, or if you're on Jerome's Discord or Millbilly's, if you go post it on one of those Discords, I will come see it after the live and check it out, whatever it is. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, guys.
Okay. Can I show you the right technique for cuffing, by the way?
Oh, sorry.
This is...
Also, there was
Corona.
Hugh Fraser was asking if Chase Postel could get in touch with him because I noticed that Jerome was wanting T1 to get in touch with him. So, seeing as this is a good opportunity to get people to contact one another, I thought I'd just mention that. So, you've seen comments from Chase before, haven't you?
Yeah, Chase is one of my favorites. Been around, been on my videos for a very long time since I first started.
Well, Hugh Fraser is he's Australian, but he's got links back to North Berwick here in Scotland, in the Scottish borders, and would be very keen to get in touch with you. So hopefully we can get people into one another. Channel Q is saying I don't do Discord. What's the name of the Discord channel for him?
Tell you what. How about Twitter, Channel Q?
What's your Twitter name, dude?
Mine is Erekose MAN.
That's right.
Is Channel Q on Twitter?
Right. Excellent.
Yeah. If you link me on Twitter, post it and link me on Twitter, I'll definitely see it after we're done here.
Oh well, look who's just popped in. Chase.
Hey, there's Chase.
Hugh Fraser is wanting to get hold of you. So if you want to do it through me, that's fine.
I wouldn't go through the Mad Scotsman, but that's up to your discretion.
I think Channel Q can get on Discord. It just doesn't have yours.
Yes.
Oh, well, here. Yeah. Okay, I can't do it right now.
But it's Cozy Wrecking Crew.
Yes.
Here, maybe I can do it this way. Let me see. So if you guys want to go for, I can let you guys go a little further in the presentation here, and I can.
Okay, shall I go on then? Let's do a bit down. Okay, then this is in my Reddit post. I have a hypothetical dialogue between Pam Sturm and Bagel, in which I think the key might have been there and the car might have been open, but it's actual much
Is there any music?
high level of speculation. Sorry?
Is there any music
Music.
to go along with the words?
On the dialogue? Oh no, I don't have any music. Sorry, I don't get it.
Take it out. What?
Oh, okay. I can create something. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Maybe I can do a little composition with some music on this dialogue. Okay. If we go down a little bit more, scroll down. Yeah. Okay. If we skip that hypothetical dialogue, yeah, more down. No. Here we have the in the dialogue, in the actual dialogue, Wiegert says, "Can you get to the front of the car?" And Pam says, "It's a Lemieux Toyota sticker on it." Does that have it? So what she means is that a thing that was known to be on Theresa's car? And now Wiegert says, "I don't know if they had a Lemieux Toyota sticker on it. I don't know about that." So that's very strange, because he told Remmerker he had a positive identification that it was Theresa's car, and that was because of two things. He had the right VIN number, and he had the Lemieux Toyota sticker, which was known to be on Theresa's car. So that is a direct contradiction of that information that's coming through in Remmerker's call. And when you might think, well, maybe he has already done a phone call to Karen Hallback to see if the sticker was there, there's just no time for it. It's such a short timeline between Remmerker getting that call and arriving at the salvage yard at 11 o'clock. So that's really not possible. So it's you see these two things. It's a blatant contradiction of those facts. Did Wiegert know? Yes, he did know, but he pretended in this call that he didn't know that it was that Theresa's car had a Lemieux Toyota sticker. And the same contradiction also happens in the trial testimony of Pam Sturm, because if you scroll a bit more down now, Erekose, can you scroll a bit down, and then we get the trial. This is the first time she mentions that sticker in the trial testimony. She says, just like in the phone call, she says, I noticed the Lemieux Toyota sticker was on the back, but I didn't know if that wasn't Theresa's car. And then Kretz jumps in and says, let me just stop you. And if Kretz says, let me just stop you, that most of the times that means that someone has said
He's
something
afraid they're going to say
wrong.
too much. Right.
Yeah, too much or something wrong or whatever. Oh, no, you're not going there. So that's Kretz is preventing more damage here. But she says here, I didn't know if it wasn't Theresa's car. And if you now scroll further down, that's just three pages further. And then she says, she describes how she found the car, and she called, Nicole, it must be her car. It's got that Lemieux Toyota sticker. So how is that possible? If she didn't know that Theresa's car had a Lemieux Toyota sticker, how can she shout to Nicole, this must be her car because it's got that Toyota sticker?
Right.
Very, very strange. And I don't recall or haven't found anything about the defense pointing to that, to those contradictions or whatever. So that's a pity. And my post ends with some questions that could have been asked in the trial but weren't.
Right.
And, that's the end of the post.
Right. Well, let's see. So I want to actually find the questions interesting. So Mr. Wiegert, who were the other Avery Salvage Yard search groups? Obviously, and you get it, folks. These questions that Roel is asking are meant to trip them up on their official story, because their official story is Pam was the only one that ever went there. But judging by what we saw in the reports, Wiegert was claiming several groups, searchers were going
groups.
there. Yeah. So where were they? Right?
Who were they? Yeah.
Yeah.
We know of those five female searchers in the southwest area, either in the salvage yard or at the border of the salvage yard or something like that. But it was mentioned in the MTSO report. But we don't know if those were the people that Wiegert was talking about. We don't know.
But he also said that he gave them a mission briefing at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office, which is pretty damn suspicious too. So these people who aren't contacting law enforcement other than through Ryan.
And keep in mind the phone call, the boss has something he wants us to do, or that whole, whatever. And now suddenly they're briefing search parties that we never saw, like officially.
And Pam Sturm didn't go to MTSO. Pam Sturm got from Hilbert, from Theresa's house, right to the salvage yard because she didn't have much time to get there. It's 40 minutes of drive. And she also had, maybe 5 or 10 minutes to make plans with Ryan. And she was there at earliest 9 o'clock. So it's a tight timeline. So she didn't go to MTSO. So why is Wiegert saying
she didn't go
going to MTSO?
She didn't meet Ryan, is what is more likely.
Yeah, could be.
So they create a story to cover up the fact that she never went to Theresa's house.
The law enforcement officers were at Theresa's house at 8:30. So if Pam Sturm was there half an hour earlier, she could have been instructed by law enforcement officers that were allegedly trying her fax machine at that moment. So that's also a possibility.
Right.
So she either went to MTSO and never went to Hilbert, to the house of Theresa, or she went to the house of Theresa, but she talked with the law enforcement officers there and not to Ryan. We don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
there's so much fishy about this case. Sorry, go ahead.
It seems like the caper at Queso is being held pretty tightly by Pagel and Wiegert, though. And they're very high up in that office. So you have the lead detective and the sheriff. Yeah. So I doubt everybody at the Calumet Sheriff's Office knew what was going on.
No, no, only those two. Yeah.
Maybe only those two, but they are very high up.
Right.
He's their senior
Wiegert
detective.
had to be. After what he did to Brendan, I've always been convinced Wiegert had to be in on it. To do that to a 16-year-old kid and ruin his life, there had to be something to get him to do that. And he had to be somehow compliant or...
I'm not completely sure. I've seen a Reddit series, one called Night in November, which supposes that he knew only from the Ides of March about the foul play from MTSO. But, we don't know.
It's for me hard to believe that you could do that. You could do all that coercion, feeding of facts to that poor kid, knowing that there's a good chance of what you were doing when you were doing it. For me, you have to have some motivation, really, in my mind, to do that.
No, it's true.
So,
I mean, the thing is, we saw, didn't we, with that guy, those two guys that bought all those 11,000 packs of hand sanitizer. There were people who couldn't care less about everybody else as long as I'm all right, Jack. And that's And that I think is where my opinion of Wiegert is. As long as he's all right, as the dude just said, as we all know, he's not in the slightest bit bothered. We certainly know that Ken Kratz, in one of his statements, said, in fact, in his book, he says, I don't lose any sleep whatsoever over Brendan Dassey being convicted.
That's because you're a horrible monster, King.
Yeah.
No, it's because he has the DTs, and it's just dominating.
Right. Pop another Ambien, or whatever. Xanax, whatever else it is.
And Vicodin.
Vicodin,
That's
yeah.
the cocktail.
Yeah. He had a pretty interesting little cocktail. So, anyway, yeah, King Kratz, he's a piece of work.
Yeah. Jinxie says Diedering was there at 8:52 at Therese's house. Good to hear. Maybe she was also instructed by Diedering. Could be.
He shows up at strange occasions. He did the queso follow-up, right?
Oh, that's an interesting
2017 research.
So just started watching, joined late. So you might have mentioned, but very strange. Someone mentioned to look for the RAV with the Lemieux sticker on the back, almost as if they knew it didn't have plates on it.
Oh yeah, they are actually asking Pam, does it have any plates on it? That's not what you would ask if you don't know about the plates being removed. You would ask, what is the registration? What is the plate number? Tell me the plate number of that car, and not does it have any plates?
No, or look for the sticker from the dealership it was bought at. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's you're in asking for that sticker, you're showing you have some knowledge of this vehicle. You know what I mean? And so it's like, anyways.
Also, Lemieux Toyota is just a large Toyota dealer in Green Bay.
Right.
I mean, it's a RAV4, it's a Toyota, so of course it's going to have a local dealer sticker on it. That is really not that identifying.
Right, but the fact that they knew it was Lemieux is interesting. I mean, there's going to be different ones. There's probably a Toyota dealership in Appleton. There's probably like a Toyota dealership in Milwaukee and, various, I mean, so
Green Bay.
Well, I mean, the one in Green Bay would be Lemieux.
Yeah.
So, but So, I mean, to assume it just automatically came from Green Bay, I think is interesting, right? So, I mean, it's just that they had that extra detail,
Yeah, and that's shown by Remaker's phone call. In Remaker's report, he's writing Wiegert, that Wiegert says he identified the vehicle because it had the Lemieux sticker. Strange. Very strange.
Let's see. Why not pursue Stephen for aggravated sexual?
They may have seen the title to the car and it might have the dealer's name on
it. Yeah. Oh, here, yes, this one. Bypassing really the license plate and just tell me the VIN. Like moving right to it. Skipping the obvious things, right?
Yeah. Actually, does someone know if Pam Sturm's phone records have been checked for an earlier call than the one she did at 10:30?
I don't know if they have. I have never seen her phone records myself, personally.
But they have to they can't just subpoena anything, and I'm pretty sure the state would have tried to block that subpoena.
Ongoing.
Saying it's irrelevant.
Ongoing criminal case. The excuse they are using many times lately because it's an ongoing appeal, then they won't release anything.
I was going to ask a question there, Magilla. Something you said that's very interesting. Maybe they saw that the car was from what dealership it was at, but this sticker on the back, this Limoges sticker, it is just a sticker, isn't it? It's something that could be easily peeled off. It's not like it's part of the trim, is it? It's not like it's the Toyota badge or the RAV4 badge. It is just a sticker that's put on,
It's
isn't it?
a dealer sticker, but the dealer tries to put it on there pretty good. That's a free advertisement for the dealer.
Yeah, you can peel it off very easily. No, you need to
Heat it with a hairdryer.
advanced stuff for that.
Well,
remove it.
heat is in shortage in Wisconsin.
No, it's just that we have the same here in the UK, but dealers that I buy my cars from, they always put their sticker in the back window. So sometimes the first thing I do is lift the back window and heat it off and get rid of it, because it's just it's just an annoyance in the rear view mirror all the time.
Right.
That's why it's at the tailgate here, maybe.
Yeah.
They try to make it look stylish.
Yeah.
And you didn't buy a car to make it an advertisement for somebody else, right? Yeah. So, geez.
Well, if it has a warranty with that dealer too, you might feel like leaving it on might help when you bring it in.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the last question I put there was about the map that Ryan gave to Sturm. I don't know if that map is available, if someone has that map. It might have a spot where the Toyota was at the pond. I don't know if someone has.
Yeah, it had written on it, this is where you pretend to find the RAV4.
Yeah, something like that. So if they had done their homework pretty good, they have found more exhibits, and that's why I suppose they could have asked questions about that map that Pam Sturm received from Ryan or from law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm sure she threw that out quickly afterward.
Possibly, yeah.
So,
Did Pam say there were no plates on the car and then Wickert told her to look for the VIN? I think it's like that, Hazel, yes. I think Pagel or Wiegert asked, is there any plates on the car? And she said, no, there are no plates. And then Wiegert says, go check the VIN. It's at the front of the car, windshield, etc. Sorry, I missed the comment you put in the.
Oh, it was just Travis talking about. Travis is talking about how it would have been much easier instead of. And this is what Travis does, folks. So, if don't get upset. He's a lawyer. He thinks like a lawyer, and he thinks about it from different angles. But he's basically saying, if the primary motive for planting is that to end the lawsuit, it would have been easier for them to charge with sexual assault of a minor charge in the summer. I don't know if it could have been a sexual assault, but it might have been able to be what's it called, statutory rape maybe or something. But and so what he's talking about is somebody that Stephen was having relations with back at the time. And personally, I don't know what kind of time would have gone along with that. I don't know if that really would have worked as well in stopping Steve. And honestly, I honestly think if they would have hit him with those charges, he would have probably left his civil suit going. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have stopped his civil suit.
Yeah. I don't think that's serious enough.
I don't think this would have been serious enough for him to stop his civil suit. No. So that's the way I would. That's what I would say there.
And I think also that we get the sense that Steve had this sort of sense of almost like immunity. So therefore they had to hit him with something so hard and so horrific, didn't they?
Yeah, they had to actually color public opinion because he had been becoming a bit of the poster child for wrongful convictions, being on TV with senators and governors and all that all the time. So that they kind of had to revilify him in all this process. There was a lot that they had to do to shove that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
I
mean, obviously, in fairness, Travis, as you just said, he's looking at it from the lawyer point of view. But You know, as we discussed with Fleetside last night, there's that micro theatre. You know, the rest of us are looking at this huge theatre, the macro theatre, which there's political shenanigans going on here for sure.
Also, in Wisconsin, there is a 20-year felony for sexual contact with someone under the age of 16.
Yeah.
That's not a minor charge at all.
No.
It doesn't require sexual intercourse, so, or even a proof of genital contact. So, several counts of that would have been.
I believe the party in question was over 16, so I'm pretty sure we're.
Kayla? Who was it?
Sorry, it was Marie.
Marie.
Pretty sure she was over 16. So.
Well, to be free of charges, she'd have to be over 17. So.
Well, I mean, there was still.
I think he was 17, but they tried to let her allege that he raped her, but
she's got to say it was involuntary by her.
Oh, she wasn't about to.
Yeah, but if she's over 17, if she's less than 16, her state of mind doesn't matter.
No, yeah, she was. It seems pretty clear she was a willing participant.
Well, there's a comment by Chase as well.
Yeah, and Jinx also confirms she was 17. Yeah.
Brown County, eh?
Is that because that's where Crivets is?
I don't know.
No,
I'm not sure why they would have gone. Well, Brown County is nearby, but
well, Green Bay is in Brown County, isn't it? And it's just above.
And that's Wabinan.
So
yeah, everybody's saying she was 17. So even Chase.
Yes.
Whoops.
Yeah, that's the county Green Bay's in.
Well, yes, he was going to buy her house, wasn't he?
Yep. Xander Rogue
was planning to, yeah. But there is a pretty nasty interview with Wendy Baldwin. Tries to get her to say all kinds of stuff in case of report.
It was a 400K, right?
Yeah, 400K, right. And, well, basically the 400K was what Steve got. Some of it went to Steve Glynn and his lawyer from his civil suit. The rest of it ended up going to Jerry and Dean.
Yeah.
So.
I think 240K went to Jerry and Dean, and the rest went to his previous lawyers.
160 went to Glynn and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that 450,000 that the wonderful, well, he's now one of the judges in the District 2 of the Court of Appeals, Mark Gundrum. That check never made its way to Steve.
Right.
So
that's what I mean. A lot of this was forcing a genie back in the bottle. You know, they saw a trend that was going to start here, that Stephen was starting because he was like, you know, there's somewhat of a celebrity, having been wrongfully convicted. He was going to embarrass the area's law enforcement in a big way, and so I mean, they wanted to shove the genie back in the bottle. They didn't want to see the rest of their life, you know, that they were going to be looking at Stephen Avery, you know, Daddy Warbucks rolling around Manitowoc. I'm sure that stuck in their craw. You know what I mean? And also the other big part of this is still to this day, I believe, more than the money. I think they wanted to block the final two depositions of Vogel and of Kosarik, right? For me, I think was the biggest thing they wanted, because they didn't want those two getting called onto a public, you know, into an investigational, you know, thing where they were going to be on the record and they were going to have to answer for all the things that had already been coming up with their subordinates. They wanted to avoid the two head honchos having to go down for it. and it saved them some embarrassment in that sense as well. There's a lot of embarrassment they saved by revilifying still Stephen Avery. So I call it, I don't so much calling it the framing of Stephen Avery anymore. I call it the revilifying, because it's really what it was. They needed to revilify him.
Well, plus it took the spotlight off them onto elsewhere.
It makes it seem like, they got it right in the first place. Stephen really was a bad guy.
Yeah,
we got the right guy in 1985. You people just need to get on board. That's kind of their attitude, you know. So,
do you know we actually have all the transcripts of the depositions at the moment? There was a GoFundMe for that, and it was very successful. So all the transcripts have been received. So all the people who contributed got a link to the transcripts. So it's many pages. So I haven't been able to do much of it already, but it's very interesting stuff. There are complete transcripts.
It might be good for a group of people to sort of do a divide and conquer and assign which ones they'll look at and bring back summary notes of findings, because it's a massive amount of material.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's also all of those depositions have been presented in the Colburn versus Netflix case.
Right.
A few of them. Yeah.
Oh, is it not all of them?
Not all of them. It's like 4 or 5 of them are in the lawsuit from Colburn.
Right.
But we have something like 30 or 35 different depositions, full transcripts.
Well, there were names there I didn't recognize.
Yeah, and right, and there are going to be videos also, but they're just trying to get confirmed how many of those videos will be recoverable, and then depending on how many there are recoverable, we might need some extra money on the GoFundMe to have those videos also. But videos are much more they are better because you can actually see if someone's surprised or maybe showing signs that body language showing signs that they're lying or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe we won't get all the videos, but it should be interesting to see those videos also. But they're in the process of getting those too. But at the moment we do have all the transcripts of the depositions. So interesting stuff.
Or maybe we can get somebody to act them out in a live stream.
Oh, yeah. I won't put them on music.
The MAM rock opera?
The MAM rock opera. Well, that might be fine, but not with the full length of those depositions. It would be boring.
The problem
you got to pick out the best bits.
Well, I started reading the Greaseback one, so I'll focus on him. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. You'll do the Greaseback.
You're allowed to go fishing in a deposition, so so you question people for long periods of time, and a lot of it's fruitless. So it really helps to have somebody, feed you the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. Well, we're about an hour and a half, so I think I don't know. We can chat a little bit on the way out, or if anybody's got any questions they want to ask over there in the chat before we head out. We'll obviously be back next week to pick up with the topic we were supposed to be discussing today, folks. By the way, had a little bit of difficulties today.
Trying to round up a gorilla.
Should have refreshed that window. I'm sorry.
No, it was
the gorilla was being held up by the skinny hairless ones somehow, so he didn't make it here in time. But no, I'm just kidding. Anyways,
Erekose, someone in the chat is saying you have the wrong coughing technique for corona prevention.
Oh, again with the coughing. Sorry.
Yeah. You're coughing like
Fortunately,
this. You need to do this.
Yes, I will say that fortunately, folks, I am in my studio alone, and so I'm sorry, but anyway.
Anyway,
It's a room with nobody else. It's
Yeah.
closed
Yeah,
off.
but-
I'm quarantined.
but
Anyway.
still, you must prevent it coming on your hands because if it's on your hands, you'll transfer it to other places, and then someone else can get it from your hands. And so get used to this
Get the
technique.
Purell.
Yeah.
You set a good example, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'll do.
Okay.
Okay.
They make these
We'll
new
make sure you
wristwatches.
keep that promise.
They make these new wristwatches that dispense Purell on your hands every 10 minutes. So
There you go.
Oh, that's great.
you have to rub it off whether you want to or not.
Right. You have to rub it out whether you want to or not. There you go.
Great idea. Actually, Corona is bringing innovation to the people. It's fun.
Yeah, we're beginning to look like a science fiction show, but this is the future.
All right,
Better get used to it.
Yep. So everybody watch out for Corona. I don't see any questions popping up here, so let's see.
Well, there's a comment there from Joris74. UK can go and Netherlands can't go to USA. That has actually
Not
changed.
anymore.
No, even UK can't anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And
You have to
pretty soon, other borders will also be closed.
Mm-hmm.
Germany's closing borders with Switzerland and Austria, and I think not with the Netherlands. I think, but it's a matter of time. And then only people who actually need to work in the other country are allowed to go over the border, and supplies will be allowed to cross the border because logistics need to continue its course, of course.
Right.
Pixel Punisher expects a lockdown in the Netherlands soon. Yeah, I think you're right.
So can we cover just one little topic about the blood planning? Because Roel and I spent a good portion of the week investigating this, and then I tweeted a lot of information, but there was a breaking piece of information at the very end that was important that I just want to make sure everybody understands. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
So the big thing was Discovery and Remaker's report about the finding of the blood in the sink. That might be it right there. Yep, is that the one that talks about? Yeah, that's it.
According to D.E. Remaker, right?
Yeah, so can you just pull up that graphic? So this actually explains a lot. So we know that Stephen claims to have reopened his cut and bled a lot of blood into his sink on November 3rd, prior to going to Menards. He says he went into the bathroom with some duct tape, held his hand under the sink, and wrapped his hand in duct tape rather than trying to find Band-Aids because it was handy. And he says when he woke up the next morning around 6 a.m., he looked in his sink and the blood was gone. That's very interesting. So we have the one scenario is that somebody came November 3rd and collected the blood. We have another scenario that that blood was in the sink on November 5th, the day the police take over the property. That day, and this was mainly rules digging, we find out that Lank was assigned to search that bathroom at 8:04 p.m. And then we find out that Remaker and Colburn are collecting blood samples from that bathroom at 8:44, 8:45 p.m. Which would seem to indicate that they collected the blood from the sink. We have pictures of the evidence markers on the sink, but they actually, going over all the evidence, it actually looks like they only collected blood from the floor. So the remarks about them collecting blood were collecting blood from the floor. They didn't see the blood in the sink either. And now this entry is from the 8th. And on the 8th, what he's saying is the state crime lab people went in with an alternate light source and luminol and phenolphthalein, and they're the ones who discovered the blood in the sink. So the blood in the sink wasn't visible to the naked eye. The blood in the sink had been wiped clean, but was still visible to luminol and detectable by phenolphthalein. So there wasn't visible blood in the sink. There was blood that had been wiped up, which is totally consistent with Stephen's story. And that residual blood in the sink is what they swabbed, and 2 of the swabs tested positive match for Stephen's DNA profile. Some of the other swabs did not produce DNA, but are also suspected to be blood. So there was blood in the sink. It had been wiped clean. And then we had another break very late where a couple of the ladies seeing the post commented that the sink was really disgusting because it was all coated with toothpaste. Mm-hmm. So when they cleaned up the blood from the sink, they didn't bother to clean up the toothpaste. So that's saying it wasn't just somebody, I bled in the sink and then I cleaned the sink. Right. You know, if Stephen's going to do it, he's not going to just clean the blood. He's going to at least rinse his whole sink out, right?
Right.
I mean, and the toothpaste is an interesting thing. So there's residual toothpaste all over the sink, except in the spots where the blood stickers are. And that may mean that there's toothpaste in the blood that was planted in the RAV4, residual toothpaste, which contains some marker compounds that shouldn't be there. From what I can see, fluoride should not be in blood at anything more than 60 micrograms per liter, mm-hmm. which is a very small fraction. Right. But it's in toothpaste. Toothpaste has fluoride compounds somewhere between 0.25% by weight to 0.4% by weight, which is a much, much, much larger number. So it may be possible to actually test the blood in the RAV4 for stannous fluoride or sodium fluoride. There were 2 toothpastes in the room. One was Colgate and one was AIM. And the one contained stannous fluoride, the other sodium fluoride. Mm. Okay, so unfortunately, though we had some great findings that help understand this, and we'll go through this in more detail, this finding indicated that some of our deductions had sort of missed the mark because we thought there was visible blood in the sink on the 5th. But what there was blood that was not visible to the naked eye.
Right.
That really suggests that the blood was collected before the 5th. And
by the smoking man.
Yep. So this is all very interesting, and there's a lot more to this blood story that we found.
Yeah, you guys are continuing to flesh it out, right?
Yep. Haven't really. So we had a really good story ready for presentation, and then we had this late breaking stuff that's changes the interpretation of some of it. So we'll try to get it all flushed together and coherent. I apologize for putting out some earlier findings where I had this misunderstanding, but
it happens.
The other thing about that that's really big is there should have been pictures of that sink under luminol.
Right.
So there's when they were testing it.
Yeah,
like in the garage.
yes. Except here, blood was found, and I think fluoride compounds also glow in luminol. So there should be a picture of the entire sink glowing during luminol testing,
Right.
and I sure haven't seen it. So if anybody sees something like that, I think that would be a pretty interesting thing to corroborate Stephen's story also.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right. So that's what we got to look forward to next week. A little bit fleshing out on that, right? And obviously, we're going to go into, I think you said you have probably about 2 more presentations on your original theory there, Magilla?
Yeah,
Is that
so
right?
there's plenty of material there, except something new may be coming up that
well,
we'll have to talk about after the show. That I think will be very exciting if it comes together. So
okay. So you guys can be looking forward to more content with Magilla. I am planning to have Magilla and Roel on with me for Mammothon, so you guys know you can look forward to that. And so we'll have to save a little something for Mammothon, guys, right? You know, keep a little something up your sleeve.
Every week we find something new. So no problem.
You guys do. I watch you guys do it. So
between the Corona stuff,
absolutely,
we'll manage.
If we don't get distracted by the virus,
and with all the quarantining going on, you probably have more time to be researching.
Now my work was already always at home, so for me it's no difference. I have the same amount of work even with the coronavirus, but I'll try to fit it all in.
A lot of good statistics. It's hard to keep your eyes off of that.
Yeah,
if you're in the numbers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this coronavirus won't cause delay in the state preventing their response. But I suspect that Marathon is still 6 weeks away. So hopefully we'll have a lot to talk about once we get the state's response, I think.
Yeah.
I think preparing the state's response to Zellner's last filing is not the best assignment for anybody who studied the legal profession. Is Travis there? Would he like to do something?
He's out there. He's out there.
He's in the chats. Yeah.
Yeah, I think their positions are pretty bad, and there's probably a lot of pressure on them. So that's all.
And they get a new Assistant Attorney General, David Maas or Moss. There was some confusion about who it really was.
Not
Moss, but Maas.
They can't hold on to those AAGs there in Wisconsin, can they?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was Tiffany Winter or something like that, and she removed herself.
Then he went on sabbatical.
Yeah, she's outgoing, and Lisa Kampfer is still there, but now she's accompanied by David Maas, MAAS.
Yeah, because Maas was the guy that was in trouble for going off his meds. So.
Yeah, but that wasn't the one.
It's irrelevant, and it was a mistake. So if anything, one of the problems with Twitter is it's difficult to clean up your mistakes. So.
Yeah. TikTok Manitowoc deleted a bunch of tweets because he realized he had made a mistake. So
that's and then you try to put out something to correct it, but Lord only knows what's bubbling around through the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, and what got screenshotted and reshared, and anyway.
Yeah, or just it's it unfortunately helps create misinformation, which is just in its general format.
Okay, so to address Mammothon, since somebody asked for it, and Lily, I have talked to Dr. Silkman. He's one of my guests. Okay, all right. So you can look forward to seeing Dr. Silkman on my segment. You can also look forward to seeing some other people on my segment, like Roel and Magilla. You can also look forward to seeing Denise Rainey on one of my segments. I love Denise Rainey. She's got a channel on YouTube, folks. It's like all true crime all the time, but she doesn't focus on any one particular case. She basically is over there creating a great bit of awareness on multiple cases, doing a great job over there. She's going to be on with me. I am currently talking to somebody that you're all going to be very excited about if I get this person to agree. Not saying anything else because I don't want to jinx it. So I'm working on it. I'm working on some things, and we're going to have a pretty fun Mammothon, I think. So that is going to be the weekend of April 24th through the 26th. I will be kicking it off. We're looking at sometime on Friday the 24th at somewhere between 7, Central Time, somewhere between 8 and 10, basically, I think is what we're at. So we're somewhere in between those hours. That's Central Time. 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Central is when we're looking to start. So basically Friday night, late Friday night, if you're in the U.S. So we got the hosts are obviously myself, Tracy Struncy, Mr. Capaldi. You got Finn and Julie from 80 More Things. You've got Millbilly. You've got Andrew Whitehead. You've got Linda Kay. We've got
Jerome.
Sharon Sunshine. And we've got Jerome over at the French Wrecking Crew over in Belgium. So those are all the hosts that we've got. Those are pretty much set. We're still trying to get the times and the slots set. But that's taking a little bit longer because we have to coordinate so many people's schedules. And in some cases, we have to coordinate the schedules of their guests. So it's proving just a tiny, tiny little bit difficult, but we'll get there. We're making progress on it, and we'll have something kind of concrete and in terms of a list for you guys to know who's going to be live when that weekend so that you'll have a roadmap to find the live that weekend. So that's all in the works. We're all moving forward on that. So keep your eyes out for that, folks. Anything else you all want to say before I say my usual exit?
Martha Dickinson is asking Hall ? I'm hoping to get a couple of Aussies. Let's put it that way.
So, all right.
And also as Erekose, as you were saying, sometimes when it comes to the time issues, it might be a case of, if for example, Roel, if it's going to be problematic to chat with the dude, just come on with me. It's it's European.
Pissing on my rug. Did you see that, folks? He's pissing on my rug. Did you see that?
That's why he's called the Mad Scotsman.
All right. Good fun. Yeah. All right, folks. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's talking about coronavirus, talking about Pam of God and her suspicious finding of the RAV, and also talking a little bit about the mysterious planting of the blood and the blood in the sink that you just heard Magilla kind of talking about. So, like I said, we'll be back next week. We will basically be having the discussion we were supposed to have today before we had changed it on the fly. So you guys can expect the discussion that was supposed to happen today next week. Same time as it was today. So go ahead and be prepared to tune in at the same time next weekend. And like I said, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everybody say bye. Magilla?
Adieu.
Adieu.
Bye-bye.
I'll be the Zane.
Auf Wiedersehen. I like it.
Arrivederci.
Auf Wiedersehen, baby.
Ciao.
And
Ciao.
here's Blazing Saddles. Anyway, all right.
Tot ziens.